It's only worse if you don't know how to use it and develop the energy and work with it, okay? The following are 4 charts did for clients this week with these injurious aspects in them and the stories behind them. Want to take a break before we do those? Let's keep moving then. Okay. Now, also Mars, Saturn, and Pluto, I said, is the worst of the afflictions. So I added Pluto. Without Pluto, it's not the worst. The worst is when you have all 3. Now, if this is going to be posted on YouTube, and I know a lot of people out there are going to be looking at these videos, and they're going to say, "Oh, Ron, my life's ruined. I've got a Mars, Saturn, Pluto." It's not about ruined. It's about understanding it, okay? And it's about how to work with it. My wife has a Mars, Saturn affliction. You have a Mars, Saturn affliction, okay? The best way to deal with it is to understand that it's energy, Mars, and it's skeletal frame, Saturn. Your teeth, your bones are ruled by Saturn. Mars rules your muscles. The best way to overcome an aspect like this is to be very physical, to work out. My wife goes to the gym 3-4 times a week. She does yoga every morning. These are physical things. If she doesn't do them, guess what happens? Saturn means depression and Mars means anger. She can get in both states very quickly if you leave her away from the gym too long. And so being a wise astrological husband, I make sure her membership's paid every month. I want her to go to that gym. I want her to use that energy in a more positive way. And she's strong as an ox. She's very strong. What strength come from? From this aspect. People that have a Mars Saturn are very strong people, even though it's an affliction. But the afflictions build strength. A lot of people say, geez, I wish I had no afflictions in my chart. And I'd say you shouldn't. I talked about the other day about people who have grand trines in a chart. Oh, they're so lucky. All their planets are in good aspect to each other. It makes for laziness very often because there's nothing to goad them on. There's no stressing, pushing them on in their life to make sure they accomplish their goals. People that have Mars, Saturn are very good, driven people to build businesses, to be successful in their business, to accomplish things. That's a stress aspect. But it takes the stress of these energies to create that type of motivation, if you would. I remember my teacher, Percy John Newton. I talk about him often, a black man, who really got me on the course of astrology. And he used to say, a person that doesn't have some aspect between Mars and the Sun, good or bad, will generally never accomplish a whole lot in life. Okay, now again, that's a general statement. Be careful with that, because people start going to their charts and they say, "Oh, Ron, you told me this. I told you that." There's another added to that, and he says, or the ruler of the ascendant, not just the Sun. So between Mars and the ruler of the ascendant and the Sun will not often amount to much in life because they don't have the drive that you need to accomplish things. Again, these are general statements. I don't want people to get upset. You read your chart, you say, "Oh, Ron, you said this, you said that," okay? I'd have to see the whole chart to really make a determination, and then I probably wouldn't tell you if I did see it. So, I don't know. It's a funny thing. As a man believeth in his heart, so he is. I'm very careful what I tell my clients. I want them to know that I know what's going on in their life. I will tell them particularly things about the past. And if I see a potential danger in the future, I'll tell them that as well. Okay, why? Because if the bridge is out down the street, I don't want you to drive off the edge. I'm going to tell you the bridge is out. So, it's necessary as an astrologer to have a sense of decorum, if you would, about how you deal with people. I had a client, actually a student of mine, called me the other day and wanted to know if she saw an aspect in the chart. She says, "Can you tell me what this means?" Because she was doing a technique I call the cosmic key to prediction. It's a very accurate form of predicting. And I said, when she told me the aspects that I had trained her to look for, she said, "I want to know what you think about this." I said, "It represents serious health problems and danger to this person." She wrote back, she said, "She's in the hospital with pneumonia and they don't expect she's going to survive. Can you tell me if she's going to die or not?" I said, "I would never tell you such a thing." The woman said, "I want to know the truth that's in the hospital. Tell me what you see in my chart." That's what she told me she said. I said, "You go back and you tell her she's going to be fine and things are going to be great and she's going to get up and walk out of that hospital." Why do I do that? Even if I saw other than that, I would never tell a client that. because as a man believeth in his heart, so it is. If you really put that in their mind, you're not helping them, you're making sure you're speeding up the death.
Saturn's seeds planting something bad in there?
Yeah, good for you. Saturn is a seed bearer. You got it. Good for you. Saturn is karma. Saturn's what you sowed, you reap. Good for you. You know, I never saw that connection in that absolute way. But, you know, you have a mind for this. It's great. Because that's the seeding you're doing. The negative seeds, if we put those negative seeds in our subconscious, we're only going to facilitate the bad effects, okay? That's the danger of teaching this. How do I teach it and yet I have to show a way out? You can't just show somebody they have an affliction and leave them hanging, this is the way it's going to be. Yeah, I mean, sure, things will happen in your life. So if I had taken my astrological knowledge and said, okay, Ron, you have Mars square Sun, maybe I wouldn't have had a heart attack, 8 years ago, But I also knew how to deal with it when it happened. I worked the magic of praise and thanksgiving when it was happening. Instead of cursing, Saturn, cursing, fault-finding, accusing. I knew that I had to raise above it. My Jupiter had to work, which is praise and giving thanks.
Now, why is Pluto worse than, say, Mars, Saturn, and Moon?
Pluto,
Why does Pluto make it the worst?
because when you have them all three, especially in a man's chart, I find it can be it's anger, accusations, and unforgiving. Pluto can be one of the worst aspects when you have it. It's hard to teach this because I do a lot of counseling for women, and they bring me the charts of their relationships they're in, and my daughter for years always gave me her boyfriend's chart information, and until she finally met the man of her life after nearly 40 years, who she's now marrying. She's never married, beautiful girl. But Larissa would never have married until she found that shining knight in armor. And she met him. And when I did his chart, I saw it. This is an amazing man. He's a great man for you. The ones before, I would tell her to avoid. But I didn't ever tell her not to be in a relationship because that's not my role. It's for her to take the lessons she needs to learn from those relationships. And whether they're hard lessons or not, that's part of her path. So I'm not one of these fathers say you shouldn't be in this relationship. I'd say he's going to be a problem in these areas.
Are we going to learn about Pluto specifically?
Yeah, we will as we go along. Yeah. So Pluto is sexual. It's desires, if you would. It's very intense. It's also the planet of Christ consciousness, as I told you last week. I think it's the highest of all. Edgar Cayce described Pluto long before it was discovered as Septimus, he called it, and he called it the planet of Christ consciousness. And if you look at the symbol, and the meaning of the symbol of that planet, with a circle, over the crescent, over the cross, the highest part of that symbol is the circle, and it's not even touching the cross. It's not touching the soul. It's resurrected above it. And that's the planet of death and resurrection, Pluto. So, okay. Let's move on. Okay, so I have a chart here, I guess, of somebody, and I don't recall, I did this a long time. I see Saturn right away as doing what in this chart? Can you spot this? There's Saturn.
There's Pluto and the Moon over there. There's Saturn and there's Mars up there.
Okay, what are these doing to each other? They're squaring, aren't they?
Yeah.
Pluto and the Moon and Saturn. And what's over here? The Sun. Okay. So we have a T-cross with Saturn, Moon, Pluto, and the Sun and Mercury over here. And by wide orb conjunction, Venus is even in there. Okay. Saturn is also 150 degrees from Jupiter. If you look here, Saturn, that's one side of an opposition, 30 degrees of an opposition, which is right here. 30 degrees of either side of an opposition, like here or up here, 30 degrees up would be what we call an affliction. It's 150 degrees. Okay? That's a quincunx, it's called. That aspect is an aspect of affliction. Okay? You know, I did these charts a long time ago, and I didn't give any interpretations to them. Can you believe that?
We're talking about the affliction.
I know it, but I didn't actually do the interpretations when I wrote this up and did these. Oh, this one, I guess, maybe I made some notes on the bottom here. I did make some notes. Let's look at this. I know I'd forgotten I'd done this so long ago. Let me go back up and start this play again.